All right, guys, welcome to a special edition of the Manhood Neat podcast. There's three of us here today. We've got Dillon.
What's up?
Rob.
Good day, mates.
And I'm Aaron. The reason this is a special edition, we're actually going to go through the mailbag. We've got a few emails with some questions. We're going to just kind of answer those questions from our two viewers who, or not viewers, listeners. Two? Yeah, two, apparently, because we have two different ones who sent us deals. And it's also, guys, this is a special edition because it is a cigar and bourbon podcast.
Yeah.
So we are outside of the bunker. We are outside, well, fairly outside.
Barely. We can see the outside.
We can see the outside, but we got the Braves game on the big screen. We've got outside weather coming in. It's kind of cool. I wish everybody could make it, but if everyone made it, we couldn't fit around this little table out here and we'd be back in the bunker. So
we're surrounded by motorcycles.
Surrounded by motorcycles. Golden tea in the corner for afterwards. Things are good. Things are good.
Right on.
Because this is a cigar episode, I want to go ahead and go right into the tasting of the bourbon before we light up the cigars so we don't taint our review. So, Rob, what are we sipping on tonight?
All right. So tonight, the bottle is brought to us by D-Watt.
D-Watt? I'm going to throw this out. D-Watt, you are a scholar and a gentleman. We thank you for providing this. You are awesome at Destiny. I hear you're a pretty good cop, so you got that going for you. And you're the man. So we appreciate the bottle, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
He's a pretty good guy.
He's a great guy.
He's the best guy.
He's the man.
All right. Tonight's bottle is the Bowman Brothers Pioneer Spirit. It's a Virginia straight bourbon whiskey, small batch, 45% alcohol volume for those Iowanians, which is 90 proof.
90 proof.
Right on. Let's say on the back here, let's read that. It says John, Abraham, Joseph, and Isaac Bowman were Virginia militia officers in the American Revolutionary War. In 1779, they led 30 pioneer families to Madison County, Kentucky, and established Bowman's Station. Later, the brothers helped establish and settle Fayette County. They were legends, admired, and respected by fellow settlers for their courage and bravery. This handcrafted bourbon whiskey is a tribute to these four heroic Bowman brothers.
Okay.
That's a pretty cool backstory.
It is a cool backstory. All right, go ahead and give us a pour, Rob. Pop that top. Nice.
Let's do a little pour.
Give everybody a little pour. While we're doing this, again, it's brought to us by D-Watt. So instead of doing the sponsor, we're just going to throw out, if you would like to follow us, that'd be great. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, Manhood Neat. We're on all of your favorite podcasting. Like and subscribe. Email us at manhood.neat@gmail.com or
info@manhoodneat.com.
and we'll get to your questions as we're going to do in this episode. So you can do that. Reach out. Guys, just tell your friends about us. Spread it. It'd be great. Also, we posted the pictures of the T-shirts. Got a little bit of feedback on that. So I'm gonna post a picture of it again this week. If there's anybody who's at all interested in it, we do have to make a minimum order, so I'm trying to see if it's worthwhile. So just shoot me an email, just like the picture, leave maybe a comment, we'd be interested in something like that. And if we get enough people who are into it, we've got a few already, I'll set that up with Underground Printing. You'll go straight to them. It's not a fundraiser for us. We're not going to make any money on it. It's just literally like, hey, these are some shirts. We kind of like them. If you want one, then you want to just wear a shirt with our name on it, that would be awesome. So we got that going on. All right, let's jump into this review.
I will just preface that I wore this shirt to work today, and I sold 3 jobs.
Nice.
Yes.
But did you get any new listeners? That's the more important question.
We don't care about you getting work. Yeah. We want listeners.
Well, we talked about ministry friends in church, so
okay.
We were just discipling to people,
Dude, the nose on this is fantastic.
It is. It's man, you could just smell this for a long time.
Yeah.
This could be a cologne.
A cologne.
I would agree there. That pour helped.
Yeah. What are you wearing? Oh, just some Bowman Brothers.
That actually sounds like a cologne.
Does. What is that? It's Bowman Brothers.
So, okay.
Pioneer Spirit. Bowman Brothers, the Pioneer Spirit.
Oh.
I'm getting apple pie on the nose.
I could see that now you say it. I was saying caramel, some vanilla-ish.
Yeah.
I can smell a hint of oak in the back.
Yeah.
Like really, really deep in there.
But I do get like a bright fruit on it. Hence, with those other things, that's the apple pie.
Like a cherry vanilla Coke.
Cherry vanilla.
Oh, there you go.
A little Savage Garden.
No, yeah. Yeah, a little cherry.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I'm gonna taste it.
My nostrils cleared up so I can enjoy this.
Get that vanilla, get that caramel. It's almost like a spearmint finish.
No
Bob,
kick.
you just went from the palate straight into the finish without
Right
giving
into
you
the finish, sorry.
yeah.
No kick.
Jump in the gun. No, it's very smooth. It's sweet. The palate is sweet. I'm getting like I said, that vanilla, that caramel.
Yep.
And honestly, some of the I think the nose carries into the palate very well on this.
It tastes exactly like a
yeah.
cigar.
Yeah, it doesn't change. It's bright. It's sweet. But since you went into the finish already, I'm going to go there too. The finish kind of surprised me because it completely flips its flavor profile on the head, and I get some spice. I mean, and I get some heat, not a lot, but a little bit of heat, and I don't mean like a alcohol heat. I mean literally like a spice heat,
Like a cinnamon heat.
See, to me, I'm more almost like a sweet jalapeno heat, just a real tinge of it.
Okay.
Like a mango habanero.
Yeah, a little.
I taste a tingle on my tongue.
Or maybe an apple pie, like a little
Apple pie.
jalapeno
Yeah.
apple pie.
Do they make that? They should.
Should, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a layman. It tingles my tongue. That's how I can describe it. But
It
don't.
doesn't linger bad though. I mean,
No.
No, it's nice. It's
It's a medium length.
the complexity of it's this would be a very good bourbon to move someone beyond Basil Hayden into something more complex without
just
burning
gonna
them
say
out.
Yep. Yeah, it'd be a good.
Basil Hayden was
I mean,
really good though.
I hate to say the word starter bourbon, but it's a good. I mean, this would be like
I call this would be an apprenticeship. So like you,
Yeah.
is that what's first? What's the-
Apprenticeship. Yeah.
okay, what's the next one? Journeyman.
Journeyman.
This is a journeyman bourbon.
there you go.
Right, you're not quite a master yet, but you've moved beyond.
You put your
apprenticeship.
2 years in.
Yeah,
I'm still at the apprentice level. I haven't gotten the hours clocked yet. But I enjoy this bourbon. This would be one. I have a friend who, outside of this group, really enjoys.
you don't have
bourbon.
any friends outside of this group.
Yeah.
I have one.
Stop
I
it.
have one,
Okay,
and he enjoys
Are
bourbon.
they a ministry friend?
Ministry.
They are not. They are not. I have a ton of ministry friends. No, I'm just kidding. He would probably really like this one because it would be a little different.
Yeah, I like it. All right,
Kind of like Dillon. A
like
little
Dillon.
different.
a little different. That's true. All right, Dylan, what are we thinking?
This is above average. It's not blowing me away. This is a good social bourbon. I'm going to give it a 72.
Oh, it's not. It's above average by 22 points. Yeah,
Say what?
yeah,
It's right in the middle of great and average.
an average. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's good.
It's good. It's a good social bourbon.
Okay, Rob, I need you to go ahead and you're gonna give me your score, but before that, I need you, since Benson's not here,
Yeah.
I need you to play with Benson a little bit. And would you make an old fashioned out of it, or would you drink it neat?
I'd drink this neat.
Okay,
This is a
I don't know if I'd want to mix too much into it. It's
Yeah.
already well mixed.
right.
You would, yeah, you would take
You would ruin the flavor.
an old fashioned would overpower with the sugars what's already there from a sweetness perspective.
Yeah.
Is the way I would see it. Hopefully, I did Benson justice with that.
And before you give me a score, honestly, like this, I don't even think I'd ice it. I don't even think I'd rocks it.
No.
I think it's good the way. Even on a hot day, it's light enough you'd be okay.
I feel like I would really like it on ice.
This would be a good mint julep.
But then you're icing it, and you're putting sugar in it,
Yeah, but
and mint.
But I love
mint.
iced drinks. So
I think mint would be good with this.
I thought you were gonna say, but I love Bud Ice.
I like Keystone Ice. No.
30 pack of Stones.
All right, so what's your score on this, Rob?
I was going to say 63.
63.
63. It's great. I like it. This could be in my shelf easily. I would like this bourbon for, like, to your point. People come over, you're talking to them about bourbons. You're like, hey, here's a great bourbon to kind of show off. And it's something out of the outside of what they would probably normally pick off the shelf. Like you said, like a Basil Hayden or even a Woodford Reserve or something that's pretty common. You'd be like, oh, what's this? Right?
Yeah.
Kind of get that cool factor, but super easy for them to palate.
It'll
Yeah.
make you look like you know
Yeah,
more than
yeah.
you're supposed to.
Well, and actually, I would use it. It'd be a good barometer for if you had someone over and they're like, yeah, I like that. I drink bourbon, but you don't really know what that means. Like, do they mean they drink Jim Beam, or do they mean And so you could give them this, and like, if they were like, oh man, this is a fantastic, blah blah blah, like it's really smooth, and that's kind of where the conversation ended. You're like, okay, this is what I need to pour them. But if they're like, oh, it's got good notes of this and this, okay, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Now I can go to my back closet
Yeah.
and get stuff that I save for special occasions.
Get the good stuff.
I've noticed anybody that says they're a bourbon person versus, oh, I like whiskey, tends to know what they're talking about.
But that true, but it's starting to change because bourbon's come very niche,
Yeah.
or niche, or however you say that.
Yep.
So it's you're starting to like it's just becoming the whole like that's why we have all this stuff that used to be cheap now is allocated and super expensive, and they haven't changed it, and it's not that great.
Yeah.
You know, most Heaven Hill products. So, but
They're good.
They're good, but they're not worth the price that they've
No.
gone to. I mean, like Buffalo Trace, even like Buffalo Trace,
Buffalo Trace is a decent.
it's a decent bourbon, but it used to be $20.
Now it's what, 40?
I don't know. I can't even find it.
Almost 60.
Is
Yeah,
it?
and it's not that great. Eagle Rare, same thing, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that ruins our sponsorship for next week.
No, I didn't say it's trash. But what I will say is, for someone to give my score, Rob, I'm right on it. It was 64, was I was thinking the whole time. It's again, 64 is a really good score. Like, I think we need to remember that. Like, I kind of sometimes in my head go back to like magazine scores. No, 64 to us is a very good score.
It is.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Totally. 62 was a great number.
You said 72.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
was a mistake. Yeah.
But no, hey, you know, like,
To each his own.
I don't get that button for no reason.
yeah, that's right. You get that button. Though, at least we're getting back to normal because the last few weeks you've been the low guy,
That's true.
and I was like, "What's going on? The world's falling apart." So we're
the world
getting
was falling
back
apart.
on track.
Yeah, let's get back. All right, guys. So Dylan, let's since we're finished the review. Actually, I'm gonna pour myself a little bit more for this cigar because it's a big one. Dylan, what are we toking on tonight?
Tonight we are toking on Man O' War Armada. It is a medium blend, kind of chocolate,
Medium full. Yeah.
medium full, kind of chocolatey cigar. It's got that. It does have that robust smell right off the bat.
Have you had one of these before?
I have.
Oh, did I give you one already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you've given me one before.
Right. I couldn't remember what you had.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you had this or if you had the diesel.
Both.
Both. Okay.
Had both.
So, but yeah, and this is, it's not really a Churchill side because it's like Churchill length with the Robusto ring size. I don't know what
had
you call
another
it.
18 inches to it with an iron rod in it.
So-
He would do that to create a huge ash. So when he was negotiating wartime tactics with people, they were so distracted by the ash length that they just caved because that was a status quo symbol for him.
Oh yeah, before we get started, to both of you guys, I don't want to catch you guys staring at my ash. Okay. So
But it's so hard not to.
it's hard not to.
It's so robust and out there.
Yeah, the ash dough, right? So
Just don't hang it out for us to look at.
all right. So I'm actually going to V cut this.
I love the V-notch.
All right. So Rob, we're getting stuff lit here. What's been going on since we last saw you?
Oh, man. Got back from vacation. Gosh, well, yeah. I got back. Distracting me. I'm trying to cut a cigar and answer questions. I might cut my finger if I'm not careful.
Are you? Nah, with a V notch, you can't cut your finger.
Yeah, no. So we went on vacation. Went down to the lakes, down to Branson, Missouri area. We go down there. We pretty much go down there every year, but every couple years we go down with the family. So big get together. About almost 30 of us down there.
So did you go to the same place you went the first trip?
Yeah, actually we did.
Like same resort and everything?
Not same resort, different part of the lake, but we're closer to Silver Dollar City where we stay.
Okay.
Actually, it's just down the road, literally 2 miles. So
I heard they're going to make a new Netflix show called Branson versus Ozarks
Yeah.
out there.
It's gonna be family friendly.
Yeah.
But okay, so you, vacation good though? Had a good time?
it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It's great to hang out with the family.
Whoa, whoa.
All right there.
First time?
Whoops. Sorry about that, folks. No, I just
Have to go get you something a little lighter.
I breathed in and I had a bunch of saliva and smoke go down the wrong tube at the same time.
All right, so Dylan, what's been going on, man? Just still working?
Just a lot of work. We are like 95% of the way done with the flip house, and I'm ready to get that thing off my hands. We have just agreed on a floor layout for our new house that we're going to be building. And
The house you're gonna actually be living in?
yeah, the house, it'll probably end up being our forever home, if not a very long-term home for us. And then just there was a calm before the storm. There was like the tsunami wave. You could see it kind of building up, and now it's starting to kind of come towards it. Everybody's getting their insurance checks at the same time. Everybody's wanting stuff moving at the exact same time. There's just a lot of stuff that's been going down. So it's busy, but it's good. I can never be more thankful because I get to stay local. I get to work at home, and my guys have been nothing but stellar. I mean, we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for them. So
Cool.
yeah. What about you, Aaron?
So we kind of like we're kind of in the downhill slope now towards harvest. So we finished up Melrose Destroying, which has been good. Got that done. So we had rain. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Yeah.
We had rain.
Man,
That
I
blew
had
me
lunch last
away.
night.
So what's crazy
Or
is
today.
we had 4.5 inches at one field. And a couple others we had like around 2. But 2 miles from that 4.5, 30 hundreds.
Yeah.
It was just insane.
Well, there was
But
a couple nights ago. I was reading my radar and it said, like a 26% chance of rain. And then it looked like it was going to pass us. And so I go to bed not thinking anything of it. And then I just wake up to huge cracks of thunder, and it was just monsooning outside. I mean, we put a bunch of sand to top dress our grass, and it was washing it away. It was so big. I was like, holy cow. It was like 2.5 inches.
we had 15 minutes of marble-sized hail in town today.
I know. My wife called me, and she goes, oh, you might have more work coming.
Yeah, like all those houses are pretty well done already.
Yeah, I was like,
So,
I can't double dip on anybody in Utica.
yeah. But no, other than that, finished up. Irrigation, we're making the last few turns. Corn's pretty well done. It's in full dent. So,
Nice.
but other than that, getting geared up because we're headed here. Oh, so another thing too is this podcast might end up being 2 parts, depends on how long it goes with these cigars. Because next week we're not going to be able to meet because I'm taking the family to Great Wolf Lodge.
A great family vacation.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to it. So we're going to do a little getaway. But this week we did have one cool thing I should have guessed brought up is Liz actually went on a ride with me.
Oh.
Yeah, so we got the I don't know if you noticed that the gold wing's a little shinier than the blue bike. It's because I got it all waxed up and it's a little dirtier than it was. But Wednesday night, her and I went on a Wednesday night ride together. Which is
Nice.
the one this year we've done together. So
Did you guys get supper on the road with all the dragonflies?
no, we ate at in Waco.
I just
So
meant.
oh yeah,
your mouth.
oh we wear full face. On.
Oh, you wear full face?
Yeah, so we did that. But yeah, it was cool. It was a good trip. It was a really beautiful night. We had there was like 35 bikes on the ride, so it was cool. And it was my favorite part of the night though. Favorite part. And I know OJ occasionally listens to this. So we were coming out and OJ was asking me, how's it perform? I'm like, well, it's a 40-year-old Goldwing. It's slow, right? Because I'm used to riding the FJR. I'm like, it's slow. And he's like, oh, let's drag race then. He's like, we both got our wives on the back. It's fair, and he's like, and he goes, I can actually win one. So we pull out and we're going on 34. We get side by side, run 5 mile an hour. It's just the first gear pull. That's all we're going to do. Totally walked him. I just walked away. And he's like, oh, I missed second. I'm like, I was still in first. I don't want to hear about it. So I don't know. And he films everything. So I'm like, OJ, where's the reel of the drag race? And he's like, right where it needs to be, not on the internet. I'm like, okay. So now it's on the internet. But yeah, so that was cool. It was cool. But
Very cool.
all right, guys. Rob, what do you think of the cigar here?
It's good. It's really smooth. It's not harsh by any means.
Wait
It's
till-
been a while since I've had a cigar, so
When you get about an inch in is when these hit their sweet spot. So I'm going to pull up the first email we're going to answer here.
right on.
So we got a listener. This listener wanted to be, we're going to leave it anonymous. But they asked us to define, so they said there's some words that we use and they would like us to to more go into the definition of these words.
Oh, good idea.
So the first word is authority. So like when we use the word authority, so we've talked about like authority of men in the household or submitting to authority ahead of us, like those who are an authority above us, whether it's at work or in the government, whatever. So what do we mean when we use the word authority?
Well, I think we use it for several different meanings. I mean, authority, like a lot of people, especially when I was in college, we would always be told we are getting taught from a position of authority, which means someone had higher credentials. They had the higher knowledge base of what we were learning. And I think oftentimes when we talk about the Bible as our authority, that's the higher knowledge base, the higher level of learning that we're trying to disciple from. I think that's one reason or one definition.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say I would probably add to that a little bit. The whether it's the person or organization or whatever you want to call it that you submit to. So submitting to a position higher that you consider over you in that area of whatever it is you're talking about, right? So whether it's biblical authority, whether it's
Professional authority.
or government authority. It's that reigning body or person that you submit to, that you should or you should submit to, right? In some cases.
So is authority something? Is it a position that is held, or is something that the people who are under that have to give?
It's a little bit of both, right? So it can be given in the sense of, like a government authority, right? Somebody gets either hired in a position that's a government position, or they get voted in, right? So it is a person. People are giving him the authority by the votes. So I think it can come multiple different ways, right?
I think a lot of it is based off of respect too. Trust and respect. Because, I mean, if we're talking politics here, they say respect the position if someone becomes elected president, even if you may not agree with that presidency, although that lack of respect can take away that authority. I mean, America was founded on the lack of respect of authority to begin with. So I think it is heavily based off of respect.
I would say America was not based on the lack of respect. I think their respect for authority came from a different place than where it was coming from at the time.
Yeah, they didn't respect that authority.
They did not agree with that authority, and they felt there was a higher authority over them.
Real quick tangent. Since Rob and I are apparently both using this ashtray, if it'd help you to move the ashtray to that side, feel free to. So whatever your natural hand is. I just don't want your ash all over my floor, because I have to. Actually, tomorrow is scrubbing the garage day anyways. But
I'm just putting an epoxy coat down with this speckling.
I really want to epoxy coat my garage. I'm thinking about it. Maybe this winter. I don't know. Anyways,
Yep.
So authority, and so I'm going to go ahead and, before I get into give my definition, I want to go to the next word that's brought up in this email.
Okay.
Because mine kind of rolls the two together, is leadership. Okay. So when I'm going to go ahead and go first, and you guys can add to it. So the reason I want to roll them together is authority is something that you give leadership to. Okay. So I think to me, authority is by nature something has authority, right? Now it can be a position. So, like for instance, in the military, if you're enlisted, your first cert, right? Your master sergeant. That there's a position to that, or your XO. The XO is a position. The person there's a person who's given that position, so they are granted the authority of the position. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the person doesn't have the authority; the position does. And then leadership is what the person authority has to do, right? And to me, in a word that has to be utilized for both of those, so authority and leadership. So authority is granted by the position, right? And so God has the position of God, and so there's the authority that carries, and He's the only person who's ever filled it or ever will fill it. So it kind of works out for both ways. And then the leadership that comes from that, but there becomes what I call there's a responsibility with these. And so what I mean by it, let's move away from God, move into like earthly authority and leadership. So whether it's a home, business, whatever. So like for instance, my position on the farm, right? So I have a leadership position in certain aspects with what's going on with planting and that kind of stuff. What does that mean? That means that I have a responsibility of the yield, right? And so even if Dillon, say you worked for me, right? And I said, all right, Dillon, I want you to go out and I want you to go plant that. And you go, I don't want to. Well, I'm telling you to go plant that because of my position of authority as your boss, if you work for me, and as the leader, you would go do it. Let's say it doesn't grow. Who does the responsibility ultimately fall on?
You.
Me, right? And so when we talked about leadership in the home, authority in the home, same thing. There's certain things in the home that person who has the position of authority, they're responsible for, right? And whether it's in a business, all these different things. And so I think the authority is a position or a positional power or position, like the Bible has authority in our lives because of it is the manual, right? And so it has the responsibility for teaching truth to us. It does it perfectly because it's God, right? Now, us as people in our worldly authority positions, we don't, but the responsibility does fall onto us. So I think you can't remove the word responsibility from those two words.
Do you think so? I guess so you were talking about how leadership comes with authority. I maybe to kind of
No. When you're placed in positions of authority, you have to present
leadership.
I'm not saying that you do.
Yeah.
But you in order to use authority correctly, you have to be a leader.
And I guess in my layman way of thinking, authority to me comes from respect, and leadership comes from character. So the way a person leads is based on their character, because you could have a really crappy leader. And so when we talk about leadership and authority, and you were talking about, our chain of command in the military, you have a person filling that position, but true leadership comes from their character. What kind of person are they going to be? Is the objective going to fail?
And what I would say then is if you put someone in who's crappy into a position of authority, they lack leadership.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So
but they lack the character too.
Right. And so just because you're in a position of authority does not mean you have leadership.
And then I think that you lose respect from your so-called followers.
Yeah.
And so then you lose authority.
No, the position doesn't. The person may.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that I would agree. So like you can have, like in any business, military, whatever, you can have a manager. A management is a position of authority. Mm-hmm. If the person lacks leadership, they may lose respect of their subordinates, and that things might fall apart. That doesn't mean that the position doesn't have the authority that it holds. Like for instance, let's go to Bible terms. Adam and Eve were given all authority on earth over all living creatures, right? All to over the world, to subdue it and all this stuff. Now, sin, we lack, lost. We no longer can subdue the earth, right? We can't just tell a tree grow and it grows, right? We can't, all these things. I'm not sure exactly how it worked in the garden, but it was better than it is now. But have we lost the authority? Like, does we, as humans, do we still have a responsibility to steward the earth?
Yeah.
We
hold dominion over it.
We are responsible for it. But we no longer have the pure leadership ability to do it because of sin. We're not perfect in it, where before we were. But the position is still there. We're the ones that fall short, not the position.
So our leadership falls short, but our authority is still there.
Correct. Rob, does that make sense, or do you disagree?
It makes sense, I think.
And you're free to disagree. It's okay.
No, there's aspects of it I agree with. There's aspects of it I'm kind of just in my own mind trying to work out, right? So the authority, because if you're talking about in the beginning, how did that look, right? And it's hard to know exactly what that, other than what the Bible says, how did that actually play out, right? We don't know. We weren't there, right? So you can just speculate on what that looked like. But what that authority means and how different it is in a worldly aspect.
Everybody's going to get the cicadas in the background.
The worldly aspect of authority versus the spiritual aspect of authority and what that means. It's, that's two, there's similarities, but there's a lot of differences too in the sense of we are the authority that we fall under spiritually is the authority that has been given to us by the Father, right? Through His Son. We are part of that authority in that. And in a worldly aspect, authority, I don't know if I'm explaining this at all or if I'm just talking out loud to try and figure it out myself here, but
You're the great shaman, though. Every time you talk, it's words of wisdom.
It's partially just me thinking through. That's usually what it is. And then the earthly authority, to what we were talking about, it's a lot of times in an earthly realm, it's an assigned, I don't want to say assigned position, but it is kind of a definitive, you are authority over this, or you're an authority over this, right? It's somewhat specific to an area of something in our lives, right? Whereas in a spiritual realm, we have authority over everything going on. To your point of leadership, now because we're given that authority, we're also given the responsibility that goes with that. And if you're not a good leader, if you're not leading in that, you can fail miserably in producing, or actually not producing. It's a bad word to use.
It's how we think in America.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to think from a fleshly perspective, right? Where how it should go, how it should look, or how it should flow out of us from a spiritual perspective doesn't necessarily happen from a leadership. I don't even know what I'm saying now.
All I got out of what you said is with great power comes
great
great responsibility.
Yeah.
So to me, like, I don't think that I agree with you. Kind of. I mean, I do, but the way I would verbalize it, I guess,
Yeah.
is that I do think that the definition of authority, biblically and worldly, is the same. But the problem is not the problem, but the difference is, biblically speaking, anything to do with God, the Bible, and that, it's perfected, and on earth, it's desecrated. It's crappy. It's a shadow of what it's supposed to be, and so. And we should, instead of, to me, in the way I look at it in my head, which is little, well, it's actually really big with the brain side small, but is that we shouldn't look at it as different, but it's that no, we have a shadow of it. We should try to raise it to the same standard. No, we can't because we're broken. But And the difference is those in authority, like God, Jesus, all those, they're perfect. They'll never let us down. They're never going to do anything wrong, all these things. And so they have perfect leadership. So they have ultimate authority, right? But like you were saying, authority kind of falls apart when the leaders suck. All human leaders suck. And so the authority falls apart a little bit. But that doesn't mean the position itself, and the position or whatever we're doing, is the authority in itself. If it could be perfectly executed earthly, it would be the same level, but it's not. And when I say same level, I mean, and authority is given on different levels too. Like you have more authority the higher you are. So obviously God's level of authority can never be met because
God's the founder and CEO,
right.
And we're the managers of our family.
And then down and down and down and down, right? So that's kind of how I looked at it. But I do think that we need to keep that word responsibility very much in there. And so when we talk about leadership and authority in the home, at work, all these things, that we understand that there's a weight to that authority. And so that's why this whole idea of not lording over things or not being a dictator, it's because we as men understand when we are granted positions of authority, whether it be an elder at a church, whether it be a deacon or a manager of this, we now carry this extra weight. And this is not, and because of that, it is not something to be aspired to, it is something to be appointed to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We good?
I could agree with that.
Ready to move on to the next one, or we want to keep flushing the show?
No, that's fine. That's fine. I was just thinking that what you said, it's something that we are appointed to, not to aspire to. That's so different compared to the earthly way that, everyone wants to aspire to be the big boss.
Right.
Here. And you're right. We shouldn't think of it as like look at me. I'm the big man. I'm the big boss. It's like, no, I was told I'm going to have this responsibility, so therefore it's my burden to bear.
Right.
Yeah. It can be abused. We all know that.
Everything can be.
Everything can be.
Yeah, I abuse cookies. Okay?
Do you?
A lot. It shows.
We're going to eat some in here in a little bit. All right. So the next word is submit.
Ooh, submit.
And so I don't know if you notice, there's kind of a theme to all these words. So to submit. So obviously we submit to authority. We submit to leadership, right? So what does the word submit mean?
I see it as giving of my will to that whatever it is I'm submitting to. So I am willing to allow whatever that is. So if I am submitting to the speed limit, I am willing to go the speed limit, to submit to the authority of the law.
Or at least 5 over.
Well, at least the car says 75.
Yeah.
Right?
I think the key word you said there is willing.
Willing.
The willingness, yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that I am willing to give up, or
So it's a choice.
it's a choice. There you go. It's good. There you go. It's a good word. Choice. It's a choice that you are. My will is willing to give into that whatever we're talking about submitting to.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you didn't take the words out of my mouth. You said way smarter words.
Okay. So do you think those in submission are of less value.
Not
than
at all.
To those in authority.
Not at all.
I think if anything, they're probably disciplined, more disciplined.
And of more usage.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, I look at it in my own business. I mean, sure, I'm the authority figure, but if it wasn't for the guys that submit to my authority or follow the rules, my business would be nothing.
Right.
Like they are the reason it functions. I'm just the guy pulling the strings in the back. So I think the people that submit might be the most important, honestly, especially in this earthly realm. Spiritually, obviously, the most important is God.
Yeah.
But
and what's crazy, so we'll take it to biblical biblical stuff here, since that's what we try to do. But if you look at like even
We try.
Yeah,
There
we
is
try.
no try, only do.
there's like do or do not. But like even Christ. So Christ came, right? And he called 12 disciples. And he said, and they submitted to his authority. So Christ is the bedrock of the church. But who brought the people to it? The disciples, right? Not that Jesus is less than a disciple. I'm not trying to say that, but it just shows how the splintering out of you have a person like a center point authority, and those who submit to it are the ones who invoke change, right? And that can be true in outside of that too. Like a business that grows, it's not because the CEO's out there just knocking doors every day, right? No, it's because he's got people who are dedicated to the cause who are doing it, and that brings more people in, and it splinters out. And let's take it to the home too, like even to the home. And so, and yeah, so if I have if as the husband I'm the authority of the home, right, of our tribe, but my wife's the one who interacts with my kids daily for all day long. You know, she's the one that teaches them at homeschool. She's the one that does all this stuff. And while I'm out farming, you know, and when I come home and play Destiny, and so the day's shot, right? You know, so, but I mean, how much more influence she has in the continuation of what I want to see create fruit in the family, right?
Yep.
And so without her, this would die.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not submitting and we're going to the next word now, is not a lesser role. And so that's the next word I want to define as role. And so, but like you said, it's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. And we all submit. I submit to those in work above me. I submit to spiritually to those God has brought in my life to be my spiritual leadership. So at our church, to be our elders, our pastors, and those kind of things. And when I say I submit to them, does that mean I agree 100% with all their doctrinal teachings? No. But when they talk about when the church elder board leadership make a decision to move in a certain direction as a collective, as a deal, yeah, I submit to that. I go along, right?
do you think people ever conflate the words like submission and love, or like caring with each other? Like, I'm submitting my emotional love to you. Like I'm expressing my love and care to you, because I feel like a lot of people in certain roles believe that maybe submission isn't the willingness to give authority, but maybe the willingness to give some kind of compassion or something. I think it's just
All right. So now before we answer that, let's define role. 'Cause that's the next word on the list.
okay.
So what does it mean when we say we all have roles? What do we mean by role?
I'd say there's responsibilities, or what I guess area that you are tasked with, if you will, or
That's your assigned position.
your assigned. Yeah, I guess that's one way of saying it.
So do roles change?
Yeah,
Yeah, they can.
they do.
Because you've heard the expression "know your role."
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Know your roles. Yeah, I mean, going back to
Know
military,
your place.
right? In the military, especially if you're in a platoon or something, you know your roles. If you're, you're fire on the fire team, if you're whatever.
starting fires over here.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, you know your roles, right? You know that's my role. I'm either a gunner, or I'm or I'm humping.
We're
Did you
good.
burn the sock?
No.
Okay.
I promise I didn't.
Yeah, or I'm humping ammo over to the gunners, right? You know,
And-
that type of thing. So
You can burn the sock. Just don't do the thing we were doing last week where you like hold it to your mouth, take it away, hold it to your mouth.
Did I do this?
Yeah, stop doing that. Yeah, no, Rob, sorry, you're right on. Like, and the know your role thing is generally a slander, right? But there's a truth to it in that we do have things that we are responsible for.
Yeah.
Right. And so your role is what is the scope of that responsibility, and and I think that it's one of those terms that has been churned negative.
It's been stigmatized.
Yeah.
I would say every single term that we've tried to define right now has been stigmatized. And at least I was just going to add something earlier on too. One of the things I've been thinking a lot about recently, and not battling, but just I've been really thinking a lot about defining what we're talking about, especially on our podcast. Saying, all right, when we talk about something, let's first really define what we're trying to talk about first, the overall theme or objective or term, right? Like you said, authority or whatever it is, all come to an agreement first about what that means. So when we speak to it, we're all speaking the same.
Right.
We're in agreement. One, we start off in agreement with what we're trying to define. And then we can move forward in that discussion, because if we just throw out a term, whatever word, everybody's going to have a little different angle or what that means. And to your point of like saying things have been perverted or they've been tinged, if you will, right, with the world. We hear the word submission or submit. Oh, I'm not submitting anybody, right? Like somebody might have a negative connotation to that. Others might be like, oh, like to Dillon, like he said, I love it when I have these guys that are willing to submit to my authority, so I have great workers. You could look at that same word and be like, submit, I ain't submitting to nobody, right? Nobody's going to tell me what to do because you have a bad past of that word. So everybody always coming together on a term before we start defining things, I think has been on my mind to like really important when we have a discussion around things.
And semantics has become it is like, in the fact, like I started realizing I'm old or getting old when I realized that words that I used to think mean one thing mean something different now to like the next generation. It maybe mean the same thing, but where I thought of it in a positive connotation, that it's negative with the same meaning, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But so I read a book called The Last Christian Generation. I can't remember who said it, but it was a book that was back when I was still teaching youth groups a lot, and it was about how to approach the current generation. And this book's like 6 years old, so it probably no longer applies. But it was about, hey, Braves, 6'2", here we go. Yeah. But it was about just that, like knowing words, knowing semantics, because it changes so rapidly. And the same thing too is like you can get a group of Christian men sitting around a table smoking cigars in the middle of a Braves game, and they can use words that they all agree on. But to someone who is either who's does not know Christianese, doesn't grow up in the faith, they have different they have a different understanding of the words. Yep. Younger people, old people, and so you have to. That's why I think like you're right. We really got to define the word and kind of break it down. And we're probably doing a bad job of that now. But the word role has such a negative connotation. But to me, like we were going to from a Christ-centered point of view, from a biblical worldview, we all have roles, right? And so first and foremost, my role is to be a disciple, right? So that's first. And then everything else is subcategory. So I'm a disciple who happens to be a father. I'm a disciple who happens to be a husband. I'm a disciple who happens to be a friend, who happens to be a farmer, who happens to be a supervisor at a farm. Like all these different things. Like we got different, and so I have to start. What is my role? Is all these subcategories of that, and I have a responsibility.
You have one central role,
right? But we have all these different things, and so like my wife, so like Liz, she's a disciple first, but as a disciple who happens to be a wife, a disciple who happens to be a mother, a disciple who happens to be a sister, a disciple who happens to be like, so she just took over. She's now in charge of the women's ministry at our church. So like that has a responsibility. How do all these things what does it mean, right? And so role to me is literally just the situation in which we find ourselves, right? In the position we find ourselves, and the responsibilities of said position. So to me, a very simple definition of role is the position in which one finds themselves and the responsibilities of said position.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And so then anything that we say in the podcast, when we say because of your role is this, then you have to take it back to biblical, right?
Yeah.
And so now there's some earthly stuff. Like if your position is if you are the superintendent of a school system, there's responsibilities of that position. But you have to approach them with a biblical worldview, with a biblical disciple, because the disciple of Christ part comes first. So as a disciple of Christ, what are my responsibilities first, and how does that funnel in to this role? So if as a father, I'm a disciple of Christ first. As a disciple of Christ and a father, what trickles from the disciple of Christ first into fatherhood do I have to then, what responsibilities do I have to exude? Do I have to fulfill to the best of my ability? And none of this can be done without Christ's interaction in our lives.
Yeah, we always have to, from a Christian perspective, that's the lens we should always be looking at things through. And that's always a tough thing to do continuously if we're not abiding in Christ every day, every second, every moment. Because we can easily get caught up in the world, and all of a sudden our definition can get skewed and change really fast because now we're starting to agree with the world's definition of that, whatever we're defining, pretty quickly, right? Or whatever suits us at the time. We can get kind of selfish and say, this definition benefits me. And that's the definition I'm going with, right? Without even thinking about that, it just can happen. So, yeah.
It's that short-term game versus
exactly.
the long-term.
Yep.
A little off subject, boys, and I don't mean to go off subject. Now that we've been smoking cigars, taste and smell the bourbon.
Oh, it's amazing.
The sweetness really comes out strong.
Yeah.
Really strong. Got I can't even.
The flavor's full
Really
on your tongue.
I smell good.
Yeah.
Strong.
There's a reason cigars and bourbon pair so well together.
I had to step away. I was like, wow, holy cow.
Yeah. So before we move on, the one thing I will say too is you are right. So I think we have to be very, very conscious. Yes, conscious. Yeah. We'd be aware of the verbiage we use when we're talking to people as culture shifts and verbiage changes. But at the same time, we need to always hold biblical standards for positional truth and even definitions of words to a point as bedrock. And so if just because the world says that this role's responsibilities changes, doesn't mean the Bible does, right? And there's some things that are fluid with culture, and there's some things that are not. And so we have to always go to Scripture for the answer on that. Biblical and with the Holy Spirit. I mean, we got to be in the Holy, like praying in the Bible all the time.
Yeah, because we could easily take, if we're not in the Spirit, right, when we're doing that, we don't have God, we're not abiding in Him first, right? We're not really saying, you lead me in this Scripture. We can easily take our own, we can easily let the flesh define that. And people do it all the time, right? They misquote text, or they or leave out context of the text, right, to define it in a way that benefits their position. You know what I mean? Their agenda. You can't have an agenda behind it. You have to submit to the authority of Christ in the reading of the text and say, agree, it doesn't matter what my feelings say or what my flesh says. I am willing to submit to that definition that you're saying it is, and then move forward in that.
So should we look up the Webster Dictionary definition of all this stuff? Because we give the dictionary the authority to define the
It's
words.
kind of what
No,
we do,
I mean,
right? In a sense.
I don't think so, because the fact that I think we were asked to define these in what we mean. What we mean. When
Okay.
we use them, not you know what I mean. Because
sure.
Because what if we look it up and it has something totally different than what we meant? Then everything we said in the past becomes an error.
Right.
So I think we need to define it as what we mean when we're discussing these words ourselves, because that was what the question was.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking if we are in error, then we are responsible for correction.
Well, yeah, but we're correcting what we said, not correcting, but explaining what we said before.
Defining.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
all right. So let me go back to that email. See if there's anything else.
That was a good question, by the way, for the anonymous asker. I appreciate it. Now, I was going
It
to
makes
ask,
my brain hurt to think so hard, though.
but it's good for us. I was going to ask a question to you guys because we're talking about authority, respect, leadership. Do you think that people who do not hold Christian values can hold a moral compass?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I call that common grace. Yeah.
Okay. There's certain people who are like, no, it's impossible. I disagree. And so I'm kind of glad we're all in the same agreement because I think there can be very good people who may not believe in God and Christ being the Messiah and things like that. So that was a very short answer. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
On to the next topic.
Yeah. Well, before that, so yeah, again, like I said, this probably going to get split into an A and B series because we're about an hour in already. So
Are we really?
yeah,
Time is
That's
flying.
good. No, it's good, but that's fine because we're not meeting next week. So if we can, well, actually, there's three of us here. Let's take this to a vote. We're going to behind the scenes baseball. We're going to do this live. Would you guys think it's better to release the conversation as a one just super long podcast and skip a week, or to break it into two?
My answer will be based on your answer to this question. Do we get to taste another bourbon?
No, either way.
Then one episode.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. The reason being is, so actually, D-Watt has sent us 2 more bottles. But I think that we should try to get the other guys here before we crack them.
That's fair.
Try is the word.
Try is the word.
But it's also,
It's up to them to get here.
it's their responsibility to
yeah.
be here.
So if
To
there's,
submit to the podcast.
if this is not a priority to
and
them,
know their roles.
on them, right?
to
That's
get
on
here.
them.
the one thing I can say is I'm the one guy who's tried every bourbon we've had so far.
That's also because they stay at your house.
hey, semantics. All right. So let's have a cookie and we'll move on. All right. So the next email, this is actually from I can use this name. It's from Evan.
What's up, Evan?
What's up, Evan?
Hey, Evan.
So Evan, like we know you're kind of local, so maybe one day we'll
Kind of local.
yeah, we'll get you not
Loco or local?
local, like he lives near here.
Oh.
He might be crazy too. I don't know. So
Crazy awesome.
yeah, so maybe someday we'll just actually get him to come ask questions in person.
Man, honey, these were such good cookies. Thank you for making them.
Excellent.
I thought you said your daughter made them.
My daughter helped her,
Okay,
and she wanted to make sure that your daughter got a cookie.
she did. She did. You gave her one of mine. That's all you did. All right. So first thing is, before we get into his question, Dillon, he has some advice for you.
Oh, I know. I think it's the same advice you texted me.
So he said, tell Dillon to keep his AR scoped, but add a 45-degree offset rail with a reflexive red dot sight. That way he can function for both long range and close range quarter action. It's quick. It's easy transition. More shots on target equates to higher takedown rate. Also, you must nearly assume that all people coming for our guns will likely wear class 3 to 4 body armor, and an AR will tear up that much more effectively than a 9mm will. So your 9mm carbine is unneeded.
He explained that to me very thoroughly the other day. I appreciate you, Evan. Thank you for helping me change my ways. I'm open-minded. I'm not stuck in my ways.
So have you been looking at 45-degree offset rails?
Not yet.
Yeah, probably don't need to yet.
Not
You're
well.
in trouble.
Maybe in like a week or two.
Well, after you get some more roofs done, you get some more money.
Yep.
Yeah.
After we all get together for a meal, and I say, "Honey, we got to go shopping at Shields."
No. All right, Rob. Before we jump into his serious question, so we talked about this last time. You weren't here. You were, on quote vacation.
Vacation.
Yeah,
It was a trip.
a trip. Yeah, business trip. But
Was the target acquired?
so if HR
Eliminated.
1808, the new weapons, if the new weapons ban happened, it's going to the Senate, which I don't think will pass. But if it does,
It won't pass.
but let's assume it did, and you had 1 week left to go out and buy, because it's going to ban all semi-automatic rifle or any semi-automatic weapons. So you had 1 week left to go buy a semi-automatic weapon of any kind. What would it be?
gosh, I've been eyeballing it's a nice BCM setup AR.
BCM.
Yeah, or
British Colonial Musicals.
something like that. Just a brand of AR. Yeah, I don't know. It's an AR I like.
Carbine length?
Kind of like a Daniel Defense.
Carbine length?
Yeah, I'd probably go just because I'm a bigger guy and 16-inch barrel. Just I don't know. I just you get a little longer distance that way. I think the 16-inch is a little better for for all around type length, right? So yeah, I can still hit stuff. I can get out a couple hundred yards.
Yeah.
pretty good.
So what would you want for a scope?
Oh,
Just power wise, you don't have to give me a brand.
yeah, I don't know.
1 to 6?
Probably right around there, yeah. Or the other one I would get, this one I've always wanted. It's probably not, it's, because I do already have an AR. It would probably suffice what my needs. I might get a Lapua.
You plan on putting craters into the earth?
A Savage Lapua. And just
Stretch out.
reach
to
out and
somebody.
touch people, right? 1,000 yards, love it.
Oh, you'd be touching people. They'd be meeting
Yeah.
God pretty quick.
Yeah. Always wanted one, and I've almost bought one a while back, and
Are they like 10 Gs?
no, they're only, the fully decked out one I looked at this is back when I was looking at it was like 2,500.
Oh, really?
For Savage, though.
Yeah, it was Savage. Yeah.
Which is a good gun.
It's a great gun. Yeah.
I'm not knocking it. It's just, Savage is probably, I've had a couple of Savage rifles, and they're, for the price point, probably the best dollar for dollar rifle I've
Yeah.
got.
You can adjustable trigger, everything on those things. It's
Yeah.
great.
Is that the Axis trigger? And all that?
I don't know what they call it. It might be.
But, oh, hey, Dylan, do you still looking for a carry gun?
Always.
How do you feel about 45 for a carry gun?
Based on some consulting I've been getting from a guy, he thinks that it would be wise for me to have one.
A 45?
Yes.
I just do both.
I know somebody who might have one for sale.
We'll have to talk about it off the podcast.
It's this guy that was talking to me. It is a single stack, so it's thin, but you get a full grip on it.
Now, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, and it's 45, and it's beautiful. It's
Now,
P45.
would you prefer that over a 9mm?
Would I or this guy that's selling it?
Well, I'm consulting several people.
Okay.
To keep my options
So
open.
my thing is, I've shot this said weapon because I own it. But I love it. I do, but it's my only 45. And so
Don't try to throw sentimental value into this price point.
No, I'm not. No, the price point. Talk to Lewis. I sell my guns way cheaper than I should. But
So does Lewis.
Yeah. So the only reason I'm looking at selling it is it's my only 45, and so like I don't ever reload for it because it takes just as much time to set it up, and then so it's it's a P45, not a K45. A K45 is their budget series. P45 is their top end. So it's full stainless slide. It's polymer bottom. It's a true double action striker. It's a long trigger pull, but it's very consistent. It's it's every time it's exactly the same. And it drives nails. Like I love the gun. If it was the P9, there's no way I'd sell it. I don't necessarily want to sell it so I can buy a P9. And so my question to you is, if you've already got like 7 9mm, adding a 45 just for the fun of it, that's just if you want to spend the money. If you don't have a carry gun and you've only got 1 or 2 other 9mm, then does it really make a difference? I don't know.
I just didn't want to buy a bunch of different ammos.
Yeah, I got 2 45s. I got my Springfield Tactical 45. Then I've also got my Kimber
1911?
45.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the ultra compact.
Oh, which they're now making a 9 too.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So I've got 2 45s. I've also got 9s. And I don't know, would you consider a trade for a Ruger LCP?
No,
Nah. Darn.
not straight.
It's got a Crimson Trace on it. Dang it.
Now,
Would you consider a trade for a MMP Shield?
In 9?
Yeah.
Oh, you got one? Mm-hmm. What size barrel?
I don't know.
All
this is
the
a shield.
shields are,
Yeah, that's right.
are 3.5.
I was thinking,
Yeah.
I was thinking of that.
I think 3.5.
compact.
There's a 3. No, I would trade it for an XD. Now, if it's a K45, then I would, or what they call the cheaper version. If it was then I would straight trade you. But the P45 has it's just higher end stuff, and so it retails for a lot. Not a lot, but for what it is. And I will sell it for $100 less than I paid for it. And I got a steal on it. So if you're at all interested, I'll show you the gun. I'll tell you the price after you look at it.
Honey, don't listen to this episode.
Yeah, don't listen to that. And honestly, if you want to shoot it for a few, shoot some mags through it, and then decide, that's fine too. And if you don't want it, that's fine.
We should all
Make
just do
sure
like
he
a
gives you the ammo to shoot through it, though.
No, I ain't giving you the ammo. No.
We should just do like a family date night where we get
Now,
our wives out.
I will say, if someone buys it, they get all the 45 rounds I own with it.
Ooh. How many is that, though?
Not much. Not much.
about 2 magazines full.
No, it's more than that. Because I got some. I think I have a box. I think I have a box or 2 of Plinken ammo. And I'll also give you the dies.
I don't have a
For
loader.
a reloader.
Yeah.
I don't have a loader.
Well, that's a problem.
But I'm building a shop, and it will have a reloader in it.
So. Oh, and if you guys are bored tomorrow, I'm scrubbing out the garage, so you can go and do that too. All right. So the next question.
I'm putting in flooring tomorrow, so if you guys want to come do that, hurt your knees and back,
All right.
by all means, boys.
So the question he has is, are we putting? How do we? It's a very long question. I'm trying to shorten it. How do we consider whether or not we're putting too much trust into our institutions of, say, the Second Amendment or our political system we have here versus God? And I think the reason he asked this,
That's a great question.
We've talked a lot about, especially in the last few episodes, Rob, you were gone for these, but we talked about confrontation and like how do we interact with society and not force, but try to force change. And so the question being, maybe you were here for confrontation. You were here for a confrontation episode. Yeah, you were. But is how do we make sure that in doing these things that our faith is not in said institution or said quote unquote rights, but in God? And I'll go ahead and start, and I'll say my point of view on it, it's because of my faith in God and my trust in God that I have such fervor for said rights.
Well, they were God-given inalienable rights.
According to God or according to us?
Well, wasn't the moral compass and the framework in which our country was founded on based on a biblical perspective? Even those who were our founding fathers that didn't believe stated so themselves?
So we have to go to the Bible for all of our positions, right?
Yes.
And then look at America through the Bible.
Which I'm not going to find any verse in the Bible that says
You have the right to bear arms.
stay locked and loaded.
Yeah. But though Christ does say, sell your cloak and buy a sword.
Yes.
But what does that mean? What are the nuances? I don't have honestly, like, I'm not super well able to like just like regurgitate stuff on this. But so moving through it though is, I think if I didn't have a hope in Christ, I would be less, for lack of a better word, courageous in my endeavors to invoke cultural change no matter what, and to stand on certain rights no matter what. And my reason being is because the worst they can do to me is nothing compared to what I have in eternity.
The worst they can do to you is kill you.
Yeah, yeah. So, but that's one thing. That doesn't really translate into it's honoring God to do these things, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the question.
Are we honoring God?
And Evan, if I'm inferring incorrectly into what your question is, I apologize.
I wonder sometimes, around those things, where are we putting these rights in the perspective like we're talking about, right? Like, are we all of a sudden making that an idol right? Are we idolizing this right I have, this quote unquote right I have as an American? Am I and putting that above God? That's kind of the question I have when I look at it and have to go back to the Father on and say, am I taking this stand that I'm taking? Is it because I think it's more important than you or what you're asking me to do? Or am I defending something that was passed down, right? Because these rights were all passed down from a generations past, right? This land, the freedoms we have, everything was passed down. It was given to us being born here as an American. I was given these freedoms, and we were asked, right, by our forefathers to defend those freedoms. And is that within, to your point, is that within what God's asking me to do too? Is he saying, yeah, these were given to you by, like, everything's given by the Father, right? God gives and God takes away. It's all given by him. So our lives, our breath each day is given to us by him. Am I taking that in the first? Am I looking at that first through that lens when I want to stand up for that right? Or am I just going straight to I want this, so I'm going to defend it, right? I have this right. Am I looking at me, or am I looking at it more from the perspective of freedom for my brothers and sisters, right, in America, right? And what that meant as being passed down generationally.
I think this is a very confronting question.
It is.
Because, I'm just reflecting back on myself. You mentioned, do we put our trust in our institutions more than God? I would argue that there is the least amount of trust in our institutions right now than there ever has been before. Mm-hmm. But if I'm going to think of it in a biblical term, doesn't Jesus also say, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's? And so even if our institutions are failing us, in my own opinion, am I still supposed to submit to that authority? Because, they are trying to strip us of our quote-unquote rights right now, and they are trying to control with full dominion over us. Now, do I then use those God-given inalienable rights to defend the fact that the only person that has the authority to control me is Christ, my Savior? Or do I give unto Caesar what is Caesar's?
Yeah, and see, I think we're in a really sticky position when it comes to that question, because our governing body is the Constitution. Mm-hmm. It's not the elected officials.
Right.
And so, our elected officials have the authority unless they try to go outside the bounds of the Constitution.
Which they are doing.
Yeah. And so we're in a predicament that no other country or generation has had, right? Because as far as Christians, under Roman law, there wasn't a whole lot of rights, right?
My mind goes to what we were just talking about, defining words. And what has happened over the years, generation after generation, is authorities have come in and put their definition on things to get what they want out of that, right? So, and my mind goes, that's what's been happening, right? Everything that we've been hearing is redefining everything, basically.
What is a woman?
To get what I want, right? What is a woman? What is this? What is it? So, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Everything's been redefined, and we have, lawyers upon lawyers saying, well, did they? And what's funny about this is where my mind goes, it's like Satan's temptation to Christ.
Did he say?
Did he really say this, right? Did he actually? And that's what they do with the Constitution. Did the forefathers actually mean in this Second Amendment that everybody should? That's what they do. They debate that. They debate the definitions all day long until they find a common agreement, and then they move forward on that agreement. And unfortunately, the definitions are being defined away from the original intention, right? So it's going way back to the original intention, defining that. And unfortunately, we don't have the forefathers here with us to say, what did you really mean by that? Right? Like, what did you mean? Now, we have to, if we're smart, we go back and we build it into the context of what was going on at that time and say, this is what was happening. This is what they meant by it. Why they said they wanted this right in the not in the Bill of Rights, why they wanted, the Second Amendment, why they wanted the First Amendment, why did they want those things? And how does that apply today? It's a lot like reading the Bible, right? You should be reading the Bible of what did it mean then? What does it mean now? And how does that apply to my life today? And we don't do that. We are more about fighting definitions just to get what we want.
Right.
Would you say that when America was founded, they were fighting against at that time, modern day Rome? Because it was a dictatorial monarchy. It wasn't a democracy, so it wasn't an appointed leader like Caesar, but it still had the
Caesars
unyielding power.
Right.
Yeah, and Rome started off as a democracy, but they turned
a republic.
Republic, and
Was it a republic?
Yeah,
I thought Rome, was it Greece that was a democracy?
I think they came up
They
with
created the idea. Demos and
right.
Kratos. That's where
But it wasn't a true democracy.
Right.
Well, and honestly, a true democracy is mob rule.
mob rule.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, then that got perverted over time a lot, and then Caesars took control. They became dictators, basically, at the end of the day, right? So they marginalized the Congress of the day, the senators,
The Senate, yeah.
right? The senators that they had in Rome. So it was no longer about the people; it was about people wanting to stay in power,
Because there was governors and senators,
right?
right?
And that's what it's just this. It's just this repeat, just like it says in the Bible. There's nothing new under the sun. All we are is seeing a repeat of history, whether it's the Roman Empire, whether it's the British Empire. It doesn't matter what it is. Starts off under moral law, right? Under a moral system to establish, and then it just gets perverted by people redefining it to get what they want at the end of the day. And that's kind of where we're at, unfortunately.
Spin it there.
So-
Dillon, your tops.
Oh, is it frying? Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
So to go back to what you were talking, what we're trying to circle back to the original question.
All right, Pasaki.
Yeah. Try and get all the way back there. What? I don't know. I mean, it's something I battle with because it's like, what?
So where I'm kind of at. So when I look at the Revolutionary War, I go back to there. Right. Let's go back to the founding. To me, there is no way America, the colonies, which became America, won the Revolutionary War without divine intervention. Okay,
And the French.
no, they shut up after it's over. So but just the way the battles went out, the way the wars worked, the way that people are like, oh, it's because the colonials started utilizing guerrilla warfare. Not to the extreme that we think of guerrilla warfare today.
No, that's like VC is what I think of when I think
Yeah,
of extreme
and
guerrilla
so
warfare.
and to me, it's like divine intervention. So God changed for whatever reason, changed the course of history, right? And even today, 80% of world missions, okay, 80%, 80, is funded by American churches, right?
Yeah, Christians are the most charitable.
Yeah.
And American Christians
Well,
are the most charitable group
It's just,
in the world.
Part of it just shows, one, the wealth we have.
Oh,
and
of course.
And two, the charitableness of the church in America. And so, and I'm not going to say that the churches around the world aren't charitable. It's just a matter of spending ability, right? Because a 10% of $10 is a lot more than 10% of 1 cent. But, dude, Dylan, turn your phone off. It's
I'm
causing
turning it
feedback.
off. That's
All
what
right.
I'm trying to do.
But
So unprofessional.
yes, jeez, it's like it's the first time.
Yeah.
Hello, ministry friend. And so it is a hard balance, because I started looking at all these things that like God has moved through this, right? And I do believe that the founders tried to formulate.
That's worth it. Sorry.
It's worth it. All right, try to formulate a society that would honor God. Okay. Things have changed. We're moving away from that. And so we start moving we're in this weird quagmire of like you were saying, like render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, what are definitions, what is all this, what is our place? And to me, it's just one, we gotta have reliance on God, right? We gotta have super reliance on Him.
So then, if God, like, we have to trust that if God does take away the ability to keep and bear arms, that shall not be infringed. Now it becomes infringed. We need to trust that that's the course that He.
So my question is, do we have the responsibility to fight against that, or we have the responsibility to go along with
Well,
it?
that's what I was
That's
saying
where we're at.
before. Is do I give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, or do I look back at Caesar does not have authority over me? Christ does, and if Christ bestowed these rights to me, then I have the responsibility to use these rights to defend that.
Yeah, and I don't know. And so I go back to the Bible looking for, because this is something I've been thinking about for a very long time. Like, literally the second.
Because I will say I probably get pretty close to idolizing the Constitution.
Oh yeah, it's hard not to.
It's such a
Americans,
great
'cause-
document.
and we have an American worldview that we're constantly trying to make sure that is not superseding our biblical worldview. Like it's a hard battle. I'm not denying that. And in fact, like I got a YouTube video from like way back. Like I was young, I was skinny, like it's crazy. But where I'm cleaning a 22, and it's actually a video on how to clean a 1911 22, and but then I started going into this just randomly. Started going into this turmoil that I have internally, trying to figure out the right to bear arms and God, like where does it line up, and the like utilizing, like passivism versus just war, all this stuff, and it's a very we talked about this earlier on an episode long ago, and this like there's a reason that people like denominations still debate over this. It's heavy. It really is heavy. And so, and I'm not saying, and I do believe, Evan, that it's possible to put God first and not know the answer on the second part. Okay, now I'll go ahead and say that, or to disagree with people. Maybe you are I will fight it out in the trench until the bitter end, and other people are no, I'll as a pacifist knowingly board the train to Auschwitz. I think both of those positions can hold water and hold credence, and we can be stuck somewhere in the middle and still put God first. I do believe that. So I want to go ahead and say that.
And doesn't God get, God gets the glory no matter. He knows what's going on, right? He knows. But I think
I
it's
want
part
him
of
to
it too.
send down an angel and
Yeah.
say like,
There
hey,
you go.
bud,
Just
Just give me
one
bring us
direct answer.
golden ARs, and let's just go to town. Anyway, but God not one to go back to the biblical perspective, right? To under His authority. He's like, what does He say? He says, "Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has its own worries." Right.
right.
So we're supposed to just live in today. What does that mean? Moment by moment, right?
Right.
Just live in the moment. Live in, not that you're trying to get everything done, but just don't worry about what's coming.
No.
He has said, I will give you what you need in the time that you need it. Whatever that is, that decision, right? We can sit here and worry all day long about, is our rights going to be taken away? Are they not? We can stand up in the sense that within the Constitution have our rights to vote for the right people, right? We can go speak and talk about what our rights are.
We can still buy guns.
We can still buy guns. We can still do all those things and do it in a day-by-day perspective. And when the time comes, if it comes, that's when we have to just look to the Father and say, what am I, this is the position I'm in. What am I supposed to do at this time?
So here's, okay. And I think COVID was a window in this a little bit, I should say. And it's probably something I failed at. And what I mean by that is, so when COVID happened, we had the mask mandates, right? And to probably nobody's surprise, I was very like,
Forget this.
yeah, no. In fact, the first Sunday our church reopened, we had signs up on the doors that said, by Seward County, or actually Seward city limit laws, you have to wear a mask to be in here. I didn't wear one. Okay.
You weren't stopped either.
What's that?
You weren't
No,
stopped either.
no. I'm not complaining about our church. I mean, no. Our church was like, we're going to obey the law. The law is to put the sign up. We're not an enforcement agency.
Right.
Boom. Perfect answer. That, to me, the perfect answer by a church. Some people wore masks. Some people did not. Right? Where I failed is I judged everybody who did. Right?
Yeah, I struggle with that today because I still see people wearing them, and I'm like,
right.
come on.
Before we get off topic.
Yeah.
So where I've come to is, let's say that let's thought exercise. Things go really south, right? And they ban firearms, and they say everybody's got to turn them in. Okay. As of today, and God might change my heart between now and then. I don't know, but as of today, no. Screw that.
I would probably be in the same boat right now.
I'm going like
if I'm thinking about tomorrow today, and that were to happen, I would probably be in the. I'm like, no.
But
Yeah.
the reason you're thinking that way is because you're thinking about yesterday today too.
right, and that's what I'm saying. But my thought, where I want to get to is I've come to the point in my mind now by looking at all this stuff with the gun stuff and self defense and all that kind of stuff is. We can even back up to World War II. That there was pacifists who went to war who didn't carry a gun, right?
Didn't they make a movie about it?
Yeah.
Hacksaw Ridge or something?
I was going to say Blackshaw Ridge. That ain't right. Yeah, Hacksaw Ridge. But 10 years ago, or shoot, a year ago, I would have been like, that guy's a coward. He doesn't understand the Bible. Where I'm at right now, and again, this is a process. And I'm not sure how God's going to move. Sorry, but. Is that I look at it and say, no. So let's say this happens tomorrow, right? Comes out, nope, Nebraska no longer allows firearms. You have to turn them in. Dillon, he's like, well, guys, I got to turn them in. That's the
I
law.
don't have that high voice. Don't do that to me.
You will once the law happens.
Once you give your guns away, you'll have that high voice.
And so a year ago, I've been like, dude, it's like you understand, like you're an idiot. Now I'd be like, man, like if that's what God's calling you to, like I'm not there. Mm-hmm. And the reason I see that is I look at the church and honestly the calling of the church. I see like God's like, no, I got to reach, like I'm using you to reach people, not agendas. Mm-hmm. And so I need some of you to go over here to reach these people. Like maybe it's we're banding together. This is going to be the resistance, and we're going to fight. And then there's other people who are like, no, like. We're going to knowingly board the train to Auschwitz because there's people on that train who need to hear Christ. Mm-hmm. And if we're on that train, we can share it with them before we get there.
That's deep. And that's conflicting.
Well, it is conflicting.
Yeah.
But you know what? But the thing is, that's what I said. God is outside of us.
I know.
He's bigger than us.
100%. Yeah, and I think that's the big point is he's got a plan. It's all going according to his plan. As crazy as things may seem, we got to understand he's in complete and utter control of everything. And to your point, if we are listening to him and if we are listening to the Holy Spirit guide us in those things, when the time comes, he will know what to do. Somebody once said, there was a story I remember somebody was talking about to their just like way back in the day when you take a bus somewhere and somebody was talking about to their daughter. The daughter was asking her dad for something. I need this, need that, whatever. And he said to her, you don't need all these things. Why don't we have these things? He said, when you go to the bus, when do I give you the money for the bus? When I'm going to the bus, right? So he was giving her what she needed at the time she needed it. And I think God will also, if we're looking to him for the answer, right, or we're looking to him for the response to anything, if we are saying, give me what I need at this moment, when that moment comes, to your point, one person might say, yeah, I'm willing to lay down my arms and whatever. Or another person might be, no, I'm not asking you to lay down your arms. Don't, right? I'm not saying it's an individual decision because it's not. It's a submit. Go back to submission, right? Yep. It's a submission to him first. Right? And saying, are you asking me to submit to this? And if you are, then
I think that means we have to do a lot of prayer.
That's faith, man. That's faith, right? I mean, that's faith. That is exactly what he asks us to do. Just walk in faith.
And honestly, like I think a lot too. I mean, just as I've got to know God, like there's just a piece about stuff when you're walking with him.
Yeah.
And there's times I'll be like, there's no way God's asking me to do that. so I'm gonna go over here, and I go over there, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
my gut, like it feels bad in my gut. I just feel like trash. Like, I mean, not like trash, like physically, but just, well, a little bit. Sometimes it is physically, but just like, I just feel like trash.
You feel like emotionally heavy.
And sometimes it is physical. Like, I mean, honestly, like God's like, he knows I'm like, I love my stomach and I love to feed it. And so like, I just can't eat, I'm like, ugh. And then like, I'm like, okay, I must be off on this. And so when we get there, Rob, like if it does come. And honestly, like there's going to be a day where either us or the next generation have to answer this question. Mm-hmm. And so when you get there, I think there's going to be some people who are Christians, who are truly searching at the true church, not churchgoers, but the church, who are seeking after God. And some of them will be like, I've never owned a gun. And they're going to be like, man, I just feel like I got to do something. Like I need to go buy a gun and like stand up against this. And there's going to be other guys like me who are like, man, I got a whole arsenal. Let's do this thing. And God's like, no, give him to that guy over there who doesn't want guns. And then you have to go board the train. Yeah. And maybe not. Maybe what we're feeling is because God's preparing us now. I don't know, but we'll know in the moment.
Yeah.
Like
and I think about Paul when he was, being persecuted, or when he was in his journey. There was plenty of times he never once invoked his rights as a Roman citizen. Plenty of times he didn't. Then there was times that he did, right? When he appealed to Caesar, right? He could have been wasn't it? He said like, oh, you could have been let go, but you appealed to Caesar, so now I got to send you to Caesar.
Right.
Right. I mean, he invoked his rights when he was called upon by God to do so. And there was times when he submitted to God and God was telling him, no, you're not going to invoke those human rights, your Roman citizenship rights. You're just going to take the beating and you're going to move on.
Yeah.
Right. All those. He's a great example of, I think, to look to and say, live it day by day and listen to God, follow what he's asking you to do in that moment.
Maybe there's a reason he penned most of the New Testament.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, so and honestly, so Evan, today, like I want to give Evan the answer for today, right? Because we're talking to you stuff, and I think if we boil it all down, what we're basically saying is, and at least for me personally, is Evan, my goal is to honor God and to trust in God in all I do. Right now, today, I feel like I have the avenues of the rights given to me by the Constitution to move God's heart forward, right? And so that is to me, it is protection of my family, protection of innocence. Not that, and again, nobody's innocent. So I'll say protection of the weaker. I'll put it that way, because I think innocent's a bad word for people because we're not innocent. But protection of the weaker, right? And defiance of tyrants.
Yep.
Right. And so right now I feel like that if I trust in God, God has given me these avenues to utilize, and one of them is to own arms. We are not yet at the point to utilize arms against tyrants, right? We're not there. Mm-hmm. Nope, hasn't happened. But the pure ownership of them is in itself a deterrent. And then also, too, to utilize the constitutional avenues we have. So that's going to be voting. That's going to be being able to gather and protest, to mass, to discuss open communication. And as these things become more restricted, God will show us the way. And if we trust in him, we can walk these avenues correctly. And today, what that means today may differ from tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It may not.
Yeah.
It may be more extreme tomorrow. It may be way more, what's the opposite of extreme? Like conservative, like brought down. Maybe I come to the point one day where I say, yeah, you know what? Like I can do more for God by submitting to this than by defying it. Or maybe the other. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because I'm not there today.
Yep.
But I don't think where I sit today, and this is me, and I probably you guys to a point, today where I see it is the Constitution is still the law of the land. And I'm going to utilize every power within it to hold my ground, to push back against the spirit of the age, and try to further the kingdom.
Yeah.
right?
I think that's a pretty solid answer.
Yeah. I would just preface that with
Preface or prologue?
Prologue? I don't know. Look up that word. I don't even understand what it means.
We need to have definitions on words we're talking about here.
We have as a society, I think it's just the earthly nature or fleshly nature, have taken the rights. Well, one, we've taken for granted, but two, we've also taken them and said, I deserve this, right? Instead of saying this is a gift.
Gift. Yeah.
It is something that has been passed down, was fought for, people died for, and it's a gift, right? And gifts, and it's a responsibility, right? So once it's given to you, it's a responsibility
For you to take care of.
take care of in the essence of taking care of each other, community, right? And this is just, I'm talking in this more of a generalization as a whole of as Americans, right? As it was about looking after your neighbor. It was about looking after communities, right? It was about being a part of something bigger than yourself. And everybody's just gone to self. And so right now, when we see rights being taken away, the only person we're thinking about is ourselves when a right is being infringed upon now. Like, no, this is my right. This is me. Versus looking at it as a whole. Like, what does it mean when you give up these rights? As a society, as a community, as my neighbors, what happens? How does it affect my neighbors? How does it affect my community? Other people. We give those up. Now all of a sudden things start to go down. And if you look at it more from that perspective of, I want to do that, if I'm going to stand up for it, or if I'm going to move forward in defending something, I want to make sure I'm coming at it in the right frame and right heart of mine, right? The right heart behind it, not a selfish. I don't want selfishness behind it. And that's probably where I struggle the most is, am I looking at this because I want it for me, or is it because I want to make sure that it is something that can be passed down to my kids, and it's something that they can look forward, that they can understand and have access to as well, and it benefits my community, and it, it just makes it better for everybody to live in a society like that. And unfortunately, we've gone so far to the other selfish way, which is just human nature outside of God, that it starts to become this like you said, it becomes this crazy fine line of, does God want me to or not? Because now I don't know. It starts to become confusing because you're like, am I making that like we were saying, this is my idol? Like you said, is the Constitution my idol and it's not God? Am I depending more upon the Constitution and American government? Or am I still saying, God, it doesn't matter what happens, God's going to guide me through it? Whether, like you said, am I boarding the train or not? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I think to build off of what you said, because you were talking about, is it my selfish desire saying, I want this right? I would say that the people that are in this world, the ones who may not be Christians or have that higher authority, would believe that. But I tend to think, and maybe this is naive of me, but I tend to think that our Christian brothers, us here, when we do think of those rights, we, as you said, we think about what would losing these rights do to my community, and we've seen what happens in the past when we lose those rights. So, I also think that looking at the Constitution, and I think us discussing this through, I think maybe I don't look at the Constitution as an idol, but I do look at it as almost like those 10 commandments on the tablet for the people of this world, the people who maybe aren't Christians, maybe aren't followers of Christ, that don't have that moral authority. This is a chance for them to read that blueprint of this is what is morally just and right, and it is a way for us to lean on that for those who can't understand Christ as their true Savior. So, I guess I would go back on what I said about I struggle with idolizing it, and I would say that it gives me great hope. It gives me the ability to explain something in a tangible way to people that can't tangibly understand what Christ is, and gives them that rule set to follow that does benefit our community. I think one of the amazing things is that the Founding Fathers argued, and discussed this for a very long time as they were creating. I mean, there's no way we would all sit here over one night and come up with those rules, those guidelines. I mean, because we are fallen humans, we would have very selfish wants and desires that we would enlist in those rules.
Yeah.
So I can do nothing but commend our founding fathers for putting those rules in place. And I think the people that don't have a Christian moral framework, if they're not going to idolize God, the Constitution would be a good thing for them to idolize.
Side note, these cigars, I think, bring out the pepper part of the bourbon a lot.
Yeah.
I would agree with
It's a
that.
very good combo.
It is.
I guess to kind of wrap this up, this
I don't know that we answered anything, but
No.
we talked
Evan,
a lot.
that was an amazing question.
yeah, no, I
We'll
do
be
think
battling
that
with this for a while.
I have been, like I said, I've probably 10 years now.
I was going to just add to that a little bit is there's a lot of people that are willing to give up all their rights as long as they get what they want.
Comfort.
They're like, I don't care about guns because I still get, I still get to work. I still get to make money, and I still get all the items I want, right? I can buy the car, I can buy the house. As long as I get that, I don't care. I mean, that's part of the problem. They don't, and they're seeing it from a selfish point of view. And we are.
And I think we should look back
Selfish people.
on a wise man who said that those who are willing to give up security for comfort deserve neither.
Right. And so, and and that's where it becomes hard because and again, we have to always go back to a Christ biblical centered view of things. And it's so hard not to be, it is, I mean, it's a daily struggle not to take on the world's view of your situations. To look at biblically and to evaluate it from that. And I'll just leave it at that because I don't know what that is going to fulfill in, but I do know that God will be glorified in it because God will not be mocked. He will only be glorified.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be the glorification of God through that. And a show I watch a lot talks about, he always, talking about America. He says America is at the point of revival or bust. And when I look at history, we talked about this last time. It's not revival or bust. It's bust then revival. Right? That's just the cycle.
Yeah.
That's the cycle.
So then do you think civil war for a reformation of the United States
I don't
is
know
inevitable?
what bust means.
Okay.
That's what I'll say that. But are we at bust? Are we going towards bust? I don't know. But my hope is and where I put my energy is the revival. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to walk through this as God will have me walk through it. If I walk through it, maybe again, what the current situation we find ourselves in, it feels like it's really speeding up. It could go on for another 200, 500,000 years.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Exactly.
God only knows.
Exactly.
God only knows, right? But
we know how it all ends. That's the thing.
Right.
When we see these things coming, we don't need to be surprised. It's all in the Bible. It's right there. This is crazy things like this are happening, and it's all been prophesied. It's all there. It's in the Bible. It's got to happen, and it has to happen because that's the way God laid it out. And so, if anything, at the end, there is a battle that happens. So there is going to be a time to fight, right? And it's going to be Christ leading the battle
with the sword in his mouth.
with a sword in his mouth. With the words from his mouth, he's going to instantly defeat the enemy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bloody battle.
Yep.
It talks about that. When that is, we don't know. Like you said, could be 200 years from now. We don't know.
Could be 10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Could be next week.
yeah,
Could be.
but it's
Now?
being ready.
No,
Yeah.
now.
But there is a diligence behind being ready, right? For that call. You want to be ready for it, but you don't want to be, to your point, you want to be hopeful that it doesn't, never comes to that, right? Or I don't know. It's
One thing I will say, we'll close this, is God has it all figured out. It's all working in God's time. But that does not alleviate any responsibility from us. What I mean by that is, as Christians, wherever you find whatever role, going back to earlier, you have in life right now, there is the responsibility of the Great Commission to go out and make disciples that is on you. That's your responsibility.
Yeah.
That is it. And so all this other stuff, so like how we do that, we kind of need to be, I don't want to say worried, but aware of our current situation so we can move inside of that sphere. But our responsibility is to be the church, to go out and make disciples. whether that's in the best of times or the worst of times. That's your responsibility. So yes, God has it figured out. God's got it under control, but that does not mean we just sit and wait and watch things happen. We have a responsibility to be the church, which is to go out and make disciples. That's the point of the church. Nothing else. To go out and make disciples.
Yep.
And so...
And speak truth. I think part of that
That's the part of making disciples.
it's speaking truth and shedding light on where the darkness is. And if the darkness is, if the darkness is the battle of Second Amendment rights, if the battle is,
What is a woman?
what is a woman? Yeah, whatever the battle is, we have to be willing to stand up for that battle. And it's going to start with just standing up and not being afraid and cowering to those things. Because I think, the Second Amendment right comes down to them wanting to take that away so that we won't stand up, that we don't have a way to stand up, that they can come after you when you do stand up.
They control you in fear.
Yeah, they want to control you in fear. So the Second Amendment is there to counter them from, pushing you down or bringing you down if they don't like what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's already happened.
And
even with the Second Amendment in place, they're slowly doing it.
And something I've kind of looked at, and this is just me, and Rob, if you think I'm misreading this, please, honestly, I'm still struggling with it. I'm honestly looking for advice.
I think you're misreading it.
You haven't talked about it yet. But when I look at the Old Testament and I look at Nehemiah, right? So they're rebuilding the wall. Start having problems. People coming at them. So what do? They all get their sword and they build the wall with the sword on their hip.
Yep.
To me, that's kind of where we're at.
And I was a Navy Seabee, and that's exactly what we did.
Okay, so I'm right.
We built things with swords on our hips, which was our ARs.
And the Bible in your other hand?
Well, we had a chaplain. So.
Okay. Yeah, chaplain. All right. Well, good. All right, Evan. So we answered your question 0, but
We answered it as precisely as we could.
Yeah, but
Which is not.
again, Evan and the anonymous person, we thank you for your questions. Anybody else who has a question, seriously, feel free. And if you have a disagreement, and you want us to talk about it, or even you want to just email us in private and not have it make a show, that is totally fine. And so just reach out again, either at manhood.need@gmail.com or info@manhoodneed.com. You can reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Guys, before we go, this is the first time we've done a cigar on the episode. And and thanks again for hanging around, listener, in our marathon deal. If you split this into 2 weeks on your own, that's awesome. But
How long did we go for?
we're at an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh,
Not terrible.
that last 45 really dragged because that first hour flew. I thought we were going on 2.5 hours.
So you're bored?
Jeez.
No, it was a hard thought to work our way through.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I actually enjoyed. I thought it was good, but that's me.
Well, it was great. It just
Some of us like intellectual conversation. Some of us don't. We get it. Dylan.
I'm not a smart man, but I do know what love is.
All right. So I want to know what you guys thought this cigar is.
I really like it. It is not an overpowering cigar as far as some cigars I've had in the past. It was super easy to partake, and it paired with this bourbon perfectly.
My biggest thing on these cigars, the reason I like them so much, is that to me they're very consistent. You get about an inch in, the rest of the burn for the 5 inches, whatever it is, to me is very consistent. It doesn't. There's not, because some cigars have a better sweet spot, but that sweet spot's really short. To me, this is a very consistent burn.
I'd agree.
This cigar's trash. I would never smoke it for a
You'd never take one of mine again.
No, I'm kidding. This is,
I would only smoke it if you give it to me.
as I said at the beginning, this is a medium full body cigar. This is an enjoyable cigar. This isn't one where you try to see if you got hair growing on your chest when you're done with it. This is one where we can spend an hour and 45 minutes talking to each other and
enjoy it.
And you're right, it does pair with the bourbon really well. So I would highly recommend everybody go get yourself an Armada Man o' War cigar.
Where do you get them at?
So these I got through CI, Cigar International. So and the cigar I want to do the next time we do this, I'll have to order some because I don't have it in the humidor. There's a cigar that Asylum makes called Dragon's Milk. So Dragon's
Milk?
Yeah, so Dragon's Milk is a New Holland brewery bourbon stout beer, right? So it's a beer that is aged in bourbon barrels. Oh. It's really good. It's higher proof. Well, then after they do that, they take those barrels and they age tobacco for a cigar. Asylum does, and they're called Dragon's Milk. They are 100% Ligero, so they are stout. They're a steak of a cigar, right? The reason I want you guys to all smoke one with me is I gave one to our sponsor for this episode, Mr. D. Watt, 12 years ago. And the night before I gave it to him, my brother and I smoked one, and my brother, Nate, told D. Watt how stout it was. And that it was hard for him to get down, all that stuff. It freaked D. Watt out to the point that cigar is still in his humidor to this day.
Oh my gosh.
So we're gonna smoke it
There you go.
just to prove to D. Watt it's not that bad.
Well, here's the challenge then. That episode that we do, when D. Watt listens to it, he's got to
smoke it.
that cigar while he's listening to it.
Yes, that would be awesome.
With the same bourbon that we're
With the same bourbon we're drinking.
Yes.
All right, D. Watt, you're listening
challenge.
in probably 2 weeks from now. So go ahead and get ready for that. I'm going to look them up. I think they're still in production. And if they're not, I'm sure I can find them. I might have to, sell a gun to buy them, but we'll get there.
There you go.
So, hey, yeah, it'll work out.
Had to sneeze. Sorry.
Okay. But again, guys, we really appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight.
We do.
I appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the emails. It was good stuff.
Keep them coming.
It's a lot of fun to answer emails.
It is.
Yeah.
Gives us subjects to work on.
Yeah, because I'm getting tapped out. So again, I do apologize. Next week there will not be an episode drop. So there will be 1 to 2 weeks.
He's not really sorry though, because Great Wolf Lodge is awesome.
Okay, yeah. And if I skipped the family vacation to hang out with you guys, I would be in so much trouble because I've canceled so many vacations with my family for other reasons that this one I've got to go on. So we're gonna do that. And then also, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and give up a little precursor. Harvest is just down the road. When Harvest hits, I'm gonna be hit or miss. I might be able to talk to Rob into being able to run the whole system and keep episodes going without me. If
In
not,
your garage.
well, or he can take it home. It's a little box.
Yeah, there you go.
But otherwise, we'll try to get you when we can. But I think I can talk Rob into it. So stay tuned. Again, pay attention to the Instagram and the Twitter. Looking for the T-shirt designs. Just let me know what you think. I think I'll throw it up on Facebook as well. We don't have a Manhood Neat Facebook page, but all of us have Facebook pages, so it kind of just floats out in that ether. Again, we thank you for that, and we look forward to talking to you guys next time on the Manhood Neat podcast.